Thank you everyone for taking the time out of your busy day to join us today. We are super excited to have Mark Winchester with the SBA joining us today. And let's get started.
Absolutely.
All right, as you know, Julie and I alternate between who's speaking and who is managing the chat. We're going to do things a little bit different today. We are going to have you drop any questions that you have into the question and answer section of the webinar. This will allow us to sort of consolidate those questions for Mark, and then we will get him to answer them after the end of his presentation. So that, that's going to help us sort of manage it. The chat will be used to drop any links that he talks about or any links that we have in there. And then, of course, at the end of the session or next week, when we have this session available on our YouTube, we will also have a document on our website with all of those links. So again, super excited to be here. All right. So why are we talking about federal contracting? Again, this is the third session that we've had talking about federal contracting. And again, it's about the opportunity. There's opportunity out there. Lots of federal opportunity with the infrastructure bill coming down and just in general. And that means opportunity for you and your business to grow through federal contracting. So this is an exciting time to sort of get your company ready. And one of the things that we're always telling clients and potential clients, you need to do your research. You need to find out who has done business with companies in your industry in the past. If you don't know that, then you don't know who your target is. Mark is actually going to walk us through how to do that research for federal opportunities, specifically for the WOSB. But that same process is going to be the same for any type of certification, federal certification that you may have. So our session today is going to help prepare you for those federal contracts. Do your research. It is going to set the foundation to ensure your success. And it's going to save you some time. And it's going to help you avoid some mistakes that could cost you the contract. Of course, we are not going to be able to cover everything that you need to know in a 90-minute session. And of course, our disclaimer, this does not guarantee you a federal contract. If you know us, if you've been to any of our sessions, you know that we try to be as engaging as possible. We try to ask questions to you. We try and get some, feedback from you. We want you to be involved in this presentation. That's why I said, please drop your questions in the Q&A as we go along in order for us to be able to get those questions answered. We're going to give you some tools that you can use now. We're going to, like I said, have those time for those questions, and we're going to help you put together your victory plan. We want you to listen and participate. Just kind of let us know how these ideas are working. If this research that you were doing gives you some insight, let us know that, yes, this is working. Provide any feedback. And of course, we always want to share and celebrate each of your successes. All right, so again, we want you to drop those questions in the Q&A. Again, if you've been into any of our sessions, we usually say drop them in the chat. But please, into the Q&A this time. We're trying something new. We will be dropping links into the chat. And of course, the session is being recorded. That recording will be available next week on our YouTube channel, and everyone that registered for the event will get a link to that recording. We will also have on our website a folder with the link document in there. You'll be notified by email. I know that everyone has a question. We do not share the slides. We share the recording, which has the slides, and of course, what we're talking about on the slides. All right, so let me introduce my co-founder, Julie. So Julie was a former certified business. She grew her business through government contracting, and she helped other companies grow their business through government contracting, winning $4.5 billion with a B dollars in awards for clients. So she is a certified proposal manager. She is the queen of proposals. All right. I am the other co-founder of B2G. I am a certified woman business owner, and I was also the former executive director of the Women's Business Enterprise Alliance, as well as the Women's Contractors Agency. I was the executive director when we won the opportunity to have a women's business center here in Houston. The first one it's the Houston Galveston Women's Business Center. So I was very excited to be a part of that journey. And this is our contact information. Emily will be dropping that information into the chat. We would love for you to take the time to connect with us on social media, as well as if you have any questions after this is over, you can drop us an email. Our guest today is Mark Winchester. 12 years, over 12 years with the U.S. Small Business Administration. 2015 Ike Award recipient, 3-time recipient of the Lower Rio Grande Valley District Counselor of the Year Award, along with many other awards. Marcus is extremely knowledgeable about federal procurement. And I will have to say, he was on my journey as we were applying for the Women's Business Center. So Mark and I worked very closely during that process. And this is Mark's contact information, and Emily will be dropping that into the chat. So again, we have a lot of information to cover in 90 minutes. So we are actually going to get started to talk a little bit about the certification overview. Now, I know that most of you are women-owned small business certified. We do have a few that are registered that are either in a process or are just interested in finding out a little bit more about that. So as you are applying for women-owned small business, one of the first things that you're going to want to do is register in the System for Awards Management, known as SAM. Not Uncle Sam, but SAM. That is where all of this process starts. You're going to complete all of your registration in SAM. This is one of the places that you can go to find opportunities. Mark's going to show you another site, but this is one of the ones you can go to. So you're probably wondering, why get certified? So there are a lot of advantages to being certified. And there's federal, there's state, there's county, there's local, there's city, Fortune 500 companies, and then as well as primes. So all of these are wanting a certification. Some of them accept multiple types of certification. Now we are talking WOSB today, but as you're looking at doing business with the government, take a look at that graphic and say, you know what? I may not can do business with the federal agency right now because I'm a little smaller, but you know what? I can do business with the local school district, or I can do business with the city. So kind of look at that and say, where do you fit in? So our WOSB certification, you have to be at least 51% owned, operated, and controlled by a woman or women. Now the ownership is usually pretty self-explanatory. Do you have at least 51% ownership? But it's the operated and controlled. You or a group of women have to be the ones running the company and have legal control of the company. There is a wonderful tool that the SBA has on their website, and Emily will drop this into the chat. So if you're wondering if you are even eligible for the WOSB or the EDWOSB, which is the economically disadvantaged woman-owned small business, the SBA has given us a tool specifically for this certification. Am I eligible? You can go in and answer a series of questions, and it will let you know whether you are eligible for that certification. They also have another website if you're just interested in any federal certification. You can actually go through and it will determine which certifications you are eligible for. Now, the advantages, it's a competitive edge. It will allow you to diversify your customer base. There are federal set-aside programs available for WOSB, EDWOSB, 8A, veteran-owned. So those opportunities are available only for those specific companies or certified companies. It sort of increases your marketing. There are some education mentoring programs. SBA has several small business development centers in our area in Texas that have, you can get a mentor, you can get someone to help you with this understanding this world. And of course, your company is listed in the System of Awards Management, or SAM. So once you have your certification, you need to make sure you are letting people know. As we always tell people, it is not wall art. So go ahead and make sure it's on your capability statement. Make sure that it's on your business cards, on your brochure, on your website, all of your social media. Talk about this certification. It takes effort to get it. Make sure that you are maximizing it by letting people know. All right, and we are going to turn this over to Mark, and my IT person here is going to stop sharing.
All righty, Mark, it is all you.
Can y'all hear me?
Here comes great responsibility.
Can y'all hear me okay? Okay, great. So first of all, thank you for the very kind introduction. It's an honor. It really is. Audience, just want to let you know there's B2B, there's B2C, and then there's B2G. And so we're going to talk today about business to government, and we're going to talk today about conducting market research, as Ms. Susan Repka talked about. And I will share this. So in the Navy, on the sub, we would say G to G, good to go. So after today, you're going to be G to G, good to go when it comes to B to G. And today, I'm going to talk to you about FPDS NG Easy Search. And so I'm going to share my screen, and let me know if one of the folks from B2G, let me know if they can see the screen. That would be great. I'm sharing the screen now.
We can see you.
Outstanding. So audience, FPDS, that stands for Federal Procurement Data System. So Federal Procurement Data System, and NG stands for Next Generation, and EZ is just EZ. So, you can just plug in FPDS NG EZ into Google, and, these nice ladies, if I know them, they'll probably share the link in the chat, but just want to let you know, you can just go to Microsoft Bing or Google, just type in FPDS NGEZ, you search that, and then you'll see FPDS NGEZ search. And so I'm going to click on that now. And what I like about FPDS NGEZ is that for one thing, you don't have to register. You don't have to, for the FPDS NGEZ, you don't have to create an account. You don't have to have an ID or password. You can just do a search. So here we are at FPDS, Federal Procurement Data System. Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't share some things with you, and that is one, this is administered by GSA, General Services Administration, number 2. And it's their IAEW, and they oversee the FPDS. That's number 1. Number 2, this is archived data. This is archived federal contracting data from 1971. So just want to let you know, these aren't current contracts. These are archived contracts going back to 1971. So for the ladies from to B2G, I shared that what I'd like to do is just a simple search. And so, oftentimes clients that I'm working with, they want data on Houston, Texas. So we're going to put Houston, Texas here. And we're going to put a WOSB for women-owned small business. And we're going to click on Go. And that's all you have to do. So we click on Go, and I wanted to point out some things to you. I'm old school, and old school, you say cool. So some really cool things about this website is, number 1, you get the top 10 departments' full names. So now we know if we search Houston, Texas, do a simple search, and women-owned small businesses, top 10 departments in the federal government who have a focus on contracts. It could be contracts for businesses in Houston, and it could also be contracts that occur. It's called POP, place of performance. So it could be that the entity is in Houston. It could be that the procurement entity is in Houston. And this is for WOSB, but it's really cool. You can see the top 10 departments, and that includes General Services Administration, Justice Department. I'll move my mouse here so you can see. Hopefully, maybe I'll enlarge the screen. That might be a great idea. There we go. So you can see GSA, General Services Administration, Justice Department, Department of Defense. And let me see here. Yes, right here in the middle, you see what we're seeing right now is there's 591 contracts from the database related to Houston, Texas, and WOSB. So just wanted to point that out as well. And then also Homeland Security, Department of Interior, Treasury Department, Department of State, Veteran Affairs, and the Labor Department. Now, I want to scroll down next. So you have the top 10 departments. Next, what's really cool is you have the top 10 contracting agencies. And then you can see public buildings, Department of Army. There's plenty of contracts here. Well, and let me back up. public buildings, you can see these numbers next to these departments and also contracting agencies. That means out of the 591 contracts that we're viewing, 373 were public building service. So a lot of these, you could surmise, these are contracts in Houston, potentially related to W women-owned small business. And you can see a lot of these are having to do with public buildings. Maybe it's renovation, maybe it's construction. And so you can see that 3/5, near over half, you could argue over half are public building service related. And you can see federal prison system, federal aviation, Department of Air Force, and you can see as you go down, the number of contracts associated with the agency decreases. Also, what is also really cool about this is you can see, I like to call it your quick SWOT analysis. What I mean by that is these could be potential competitors. These are entities that were awarded contracts. So you can see American Renewable Energy, Border Demolition and Environmental, Southern Contracting, Solutions Counseling and Consulting, Elevator Repair, Marfran Cleaning. So give me 1 second here. Now, in addition to these 10 full legal business names, not only could they be potential competitors, they could be potential entities to do business with. Now, audience, you may be aware of this. If you've been taking some training already with B2G, you're probably already aware that with federal government, you can have prime contractors, and prime contractors, if they're awarded federal contracts of $750,000 or more, they need to have a subcontracting plan. And that means there are subcontracting opportunities. And Ms. Susan Repka shared about this, or either directly or alluded to this, that, this federal, state, local, corporate, and one way to get your foot in the door is through subcontracting opportunities. So not only could these legal entities be competitors, they may be a way for you to get your foot in the door if they are considered prime contractors and they were awarded prime contracts and they need to have a subcontracting opportunity or subcontracting plan. And so please keep that in mind. Now, I also want to point out to the right, you should be able to see to the right of the screen here, sort order. Want to let you know that you could sort by these different types. You could sort by contract, you could sort by agency, you could sort by date signed. I think you get it. There's NAICS code, entity, PSC. We're going to talk about NAICS and PSC in a second, but another cool feature, once again, is you can do some various sorting depending on how you want to search these contracts. Now, I was also pointing this out to the ladies earlier, and another thing, audience, that you can see here is you want to click on view, okay? And I guess, maybe before we go to view, just give you an overview here. You can see the contract number, the legal business entity, you can see the date signed, you can see the type of services, you can see the zip code, you can also see who's the contracting office, who's the contracting agency, some really cool information. Now what we want to do is click on view. So we're gonna look at this contract a little bit more closely. And you may be wondering, our audience, what is a BPA? That's a blanket purchase agreement. And you can see the prepared date, October 8th, 2014, last modified October 8th, 2014. And you can see here the procurement identifier for the contract. And you can see some agency identifiers. And I would take notes on this information. Why? So if you want to search that agency, maybe you're interested in that particular agency. And this will give you some inside notes. And I say inside, I mean, it will assist for you to search further. You can take these notes such as agency identifier. Also here, give me 1 second. You can see here some dates here, last date to order. You can see here the amount. What was the size of this contract? Base and all options, $13,000. And you can see, like we mentioned here. So what's interesting is that the contracting, in this case, the contracting agency was Houston, and it was the federal prison system, and it's the Bureau of Prisons. And so what was interesting here on the surface, and let me go back. I do want to go back. Okay, and let me click on go again. On the surface here, you see Tulsa, Oklahoma, and you're thinking, well, I don't want Tulsa, I want Houston. Well, so what it is this entity, this RPH.S Inc., they are in Tulsa, Oklahoma, but the contract was in Houston. So even though it has Tulsa, Oklahoma, we're actually looking at a contract related to an entity, and it was right here in Houston. Some other things that I want to point out here. You can also see the socio or set aside for the entity that got awarded the contract. And take a look here. You can see that it's women-owned business. And so we're looking at an entity that was a women-owned, has the WOSB, either self-certification or certification. And let's go back. And let's search again. Now, as I mentioned, we're looking at one of 30. There are over 591. This is as of today. Now, the next cool thing that I think is really cool about this is when I'm sharing this information with a client, just as if you were right here in my office, the next thing that we would want to do after searching this data is to download it. And hopefully you can see here, you can download this as a PDF, or you can download it as a CSV. And so in preparation for this presentation, I have already done that. So as they say in Spanish, un momento, por favor. So here we are. So, so what you would see, and give me 1 second. So what you would see is when you would click on the CSV file, there would be a pop-up. And give me 1 second. We might as well do that. So I'm going to click on this right now. And what do you see? You see a pop-up, and then you just click on that, and that's what I did. And that's what I have. And here we are. And, you know, I'm going to do something else that's really cool. And I say cool. For me, it's pretty cool. And that is one thing that you can do is go right across the top. And we're going to talk about some of these columns here, but give me 1 second. One thing that you can do right away, which is really cool, is you can click on, I'm on the Excel, and I'm on this filter. It's called Sort and Filter. And I'm on the home screen. I'm on the home tab. I'm on Sort and Filter. And I'm just going to click on Filter. And so now all these columns here, and we're going to talk about contract ID, reference identification for the contract, what type of award, date signed, contracting agency. Guess what? You can click on that filter there and you can see, hopefully you can see this, but let's say you didn't want all the contracts. Maybe you just want to do a business with Department of Air Force. Well, you can click on Department of Air Force and then just look at those contracts with the Department of Air Force. I think you get the picture here. So we're going to uncheck that. We're going to select that. And that takes us back to where we were before. But I really like that feature, being able to filter, and you can filter on this Excel. Now, another feature that is really cool, and hopefully we can do this here. Give me 1 second. I have a zoom bar up here, and the zoom bar is overlapping my Excel spreadsheet here. Give me 1 second here. There we go. Okay. So another thing that's really cool, and we're getting a little into the weeds here, but that's all right. You can handle the weeds. So what it is you can click insert. And one thing that's really cool for me is these pivot tables. Now, if you've never done pivot tables before, consider taking a class. And sometimes you can find these classes for free, or you can go on YouTube video and take a class, basic Excel on pivot tables. And I like this recommended pivot table. So before coming on, I did that already. And then you can click on recommended, and that's just a really cool feature. And I know it's small for you, but you can see, you can take a pivot table, and they give you some examples here. You can have a pivot table. It's a way to search this data, and it's a way to search based on type of contract, based on state, based on NAICS code, based on count of contract. So they have different choices here. So I selected one, and I believe it's based on contract. And so now you have sheets. You have sheets with Excel spreadsheets. And I'm going to click on that first sheet. Now we're on that first sheet, and it's your pivot table. And actually you can click on that sheet, and you can click on rename. And I'm gonna just put here pivot table. And you can even put pivot table, and I'm gonna put agency. And so what I selected was a pivot table based on agency. Now, one of the things that you can do is there's additional data over to the right here. And so give me 1 second. My throat is just a little parched. Hold on 1 second. So over here on the right, you can see the pivot table. And what I did was I already had selected contracting agency. Well, guess what I did? I added a PSC. PSC, that's just a fancy term. Well, it's just a term for, it's a description. Well, let me back up. It is an industrial code. PSC is an industrial code. And I guess I should touch on the subject just briefly here. So you have industrial codes, attendees. There's NAICS code, North American Industry Classification System. And give me 1 second here. As they say, un momento, por favor. Let's see if we can make this plan come together. Yes, we can make this plan come together. So what it is you can see right here in this column here, PSC. So that's an industrial code. And then you see NAICS code, that's North American Industry Classification. NAICS code, and I'll share this, audience, you need to know your NAICS code. And not only do you need to know your NAICS code, you need to know your primary NAICS code. And if you don't know your primary NAICS code, reach out to B2G, reach out to me, and where does this NAICS code come from? It comes from uscensus.gov, uscensus.gov, and you can actually Google uscensus.gov NAICS, and you can search there. But you really need to know your NAICS code. You need to know your primary NAICS code, especially if you're going to get into federal contracting. And what's really cool is you have a description here. NAICS code is 6-digit code. And you can see here temporary help services. And what's even cooler, yes, what's even cooler here is you can drill down with PSC. PSC helps you drill down from that. So, let me go back 1 second. So you have a 6-digit NAICS code, temporary help, but, can you go a little bit further with that 6-digit NAICS code temporary help? You can. And look, the temporary help services in this case was for medical general health care. So the temporary health with the 561320 was actually going down a little bit further, was a Q201 medical general health care. And guess what, audience? When you do that FPDS, now remember, what is FPDS? Federal Procurement Data System, NG, next generation, EZ, because it's EZ. Well, guess what? If you can also identify your PSC code. And so next time you can drill down just for those contracts related to your PSC. So let's go back to the pivot table. Give me 1 second. And so you can see here, what's really cool about this pivot table is it shows you the contracting agency and what are the related associated PSC codes for that contracting agency. Now remember, where did we get this data, or what was this search? It was just a simple search, and it was just a simple search for Houston, Texas, and WOSB. And give me 1 second. So let's go back. All right, let's go back. And one last comment, audience. What I like to do, I like to save as. And when I save, audience, I don't want a CSV. I want Excel. So I just want to let you know, audience, when you save this data from what? FPDS, NG, EZ, for what? A Houston, Texas, WOSB. You don't want to save it as a CSV file. You can save it as an Excel file. And then bam, now you have an Excel spreadsheet with all that data, including a pivot table. So now let's go back. And so here's the search audience. Another thing that I want to point out to you, audience, is you can do an advanced search. And give me 1 second. Now we're getting in the weeds a little bit more, but that's okay because you're going to be G to G. So we're going to click on add here. And I know you're probably wondering, Mark, why did you move the radio button from search within to new search? That's, for me, that's just a habit. You don't have to do that. But I want to be clear here. If you want to do a new search, you want to click on that radio button there. But you can also search within, so this is an important point. You can search within these 591 contracts. Anyways, you click to do an advanced search, just click add. And then there's going to be a drop-down box. And then this drop down box, give me 1 second. This is really cool because I do get excited about this. And if you're going to do business with the federal government, do you need to know all of these identifiers? Not necessarily. No, not right away. But, you know, you will want to become familiar with these identifiers here within FPDS NG. They include obligation. This is the contracting entity obligating dollars for a specific contract. So you could search by obligated dollars. You can search by agency name, which is really cool. You can search by agency code. And where did I say you could get that agency code? Well, you could look at an individual contract and find out the agency code. Also, I like this. You could do an advanced search on entity. The entity is for the business that's getting awarded the contract. You could search by entity city. So remember, we just typed in, we did an EZ search and we just typed in Houston, Texas. Well, you could do a more advanced search by typing entity city. And in this case, well, it depends on you, whatever you want to search. In my case, I searched Houston. Now, you may want to do a macro search. And what I mean by that is a larger or wider search. And one thing that you could do may be Texas. Maybe you'd like to search by Texas. And that's key here. Want to let you know, you do need to know the nuances of FPDS and GEZ. You know, is it TX? Technically for FPDS, when you look at the individual contracts, it will show the abbreviation TX. But I want to let you know, this search has a disposition of its own. What I mean by that is these contracts are listed by abbreviation, they're listed by state, they're listed by TX, but I can guarantee you not every time that you put TX in the entity state will those contracts, you know, pull up immediately. So you have to work with the FPDS, but you can also search by entity state. Give me 1 second. Another thing that's cool is you can search by NAICS code. We talked about NAICS code, which that's 6-digit code. You can also search by NAICS code description. Give me 1 second. I think you're getting the idea here. And then if you really want to drill down, you can drill down by PSC. And what did we say? We said the PSC is a more narrower search than the NAICS code. And you can search by code, by description, POP, that's place of performance. So you could do a POP, place of performance by congressional district, by country, by state, because yes, the federal government, which spends about $500 billion every year, they may be doing awarding work that is outside the contiguous 48 states. And you can also search, you may want to know SBIR, Small Business Innovation Research. And there are also, excuse me 1 second. Socioeconomic factor. If you're going to search for women-owned small business, I recommend you click on women. I would recommend instead of, you know, your first inclination is woman, WOOMAN or WOSB, but you might have to type in WOMEN. I know. But anyways, when I typed in women, the contracts would come up. So you gotta just be familiar with the nuances of FPDS. But ladies, B2G, this is my presentation. Audience, this is my presentation on FPDS, Federal Procurement Data System, Next Generation, EZ. this concludes my presentation, and I'm going to stop sharing.
Awesome. Wow. Thanks, Mark. I think you're just as passionate about this type of stuff as we are, and we super appreciate it. We've got a couple of questions for you. Do set-asides have subcontracting requirements?
Wow, that's
a good one. Yeah.
If this was the school of SBA, I would give you an A+. So, I would say it's based on the contract. And, so keep in mind, you have primes, and primes have a subcontracting plan. And so the question is, are there certification requirements for the subcontracting plan? That's an interesting question. I will say, and audience, and I'll share this with B2G, I like to shoot straight from the hip, and shooting straight from the hip means being direct. I have not come across that, but just because I have not come across that does not mean it has not occurred. So I will say on that, I'm going to have to research that and get back to you. I'm going to have to give you 2 A+ on that. Yeah, but the key,
that was a great one right out the gate.
yeah,
Yep.
right out the gate. But the key is you want to be aware there are prime contracts. You eventually want to become a prime contractor. But when you don't have that 2 years of experience, when you don't have those certifications, when you don't have that history, then it's subcontracting opportunities. My inclination is no. I don't think there's a requirement for the subcontracting opportunities. That's my inclination. But the military in me, the due diligence in me, is going to say I'm going to have to get back to you on that.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. And then we've got another question. How often is the database updated? Because it is government, right?
And that's another great question. So what it is this database, fascinating question. I give you an A+. So
well, I can't take the credit for that. These questions are coming in the Q&A. That specific one.
Audience, we've got a good group here. So what it is it gets updated pretty regularly. So even though, man, I keep losing my voice. It keeps getting dry. One second. Even though this is a database of archive contracts, and even though it goes back to 1971, even though these aren't current contracts, these are archive contracts, they do get updated pretty regularly. But what it is it does take some time. For example, DoD, Department of Defense contracts, those contracts that become archived don't immediately get updated in the system. And it may take, my recall on that is somewhere between 30 and 60 days. I would be leaning more towards 60 days for the FPDS to be updated on including Department of Defense contracts.
And I think in the government world, 60 days is pretty good. So she's got another part to that question. So, and I might need to reshare the screen so you can answer this one. Are we able to look up current contracts that have been awarded?
No, and that's a great question. And man, this is another school of SBA A+. And so, what it is I like that phrase, is that you go to SAM. Ms. Susan Repka talked about SAM, System Award Management. And what it is databases were consolidated. And what it is SAM was updated to include other databases. And there's a favorite of mine called Fed Biz Ops. Fed Biz Ops is now on System Awarded Management. So you can search businesses that are on System Award Management. You can search current contracts on SAM. It used to be, for those of you who are savvy, know that it used to be Fed Biz Ops. Well, now Fed Biz Ops is on System Award Management. And I will share this, that was such a good question, is there are what they call ad hoc reports. And I want to say, as we'd say in Spanish, más o menos, more or less, there's about 24, somewhere between a dozen and 24 ad hoc reports for contracts that you can search on System Award Management. But even with all those reports, Fed Biz Ops, and I want to be clear here, Fed Biz Ops is where you search current contracts. Now, my understanding with Fed Biz Ops, you should be able to, the last 12 months, you should be able to see contracts awarded in the last 12 months on Fed Biz Ops. But now Fed Biz Ops is on System Award Management. Another database that I just wanted to share that was consolidated with SAM was excluded party list. That's now on SAM as well.
Very cool. I think we've got just a few more questions. One is from Margaret. This database is all government contract awards, not private sector. Correct. You are correct. And even more in detail regarding government contracts. This is government contracts on the federal level.
Correct. As you'd say in Spanish, federales, federal, federales solamente, federal only. You're absolutely correct.
All righty. Any other final questions for Mark at this point before we move into the other sections of our program this afternoon?
How competitive are these contracts?
Oh, and how do we stand out?
Wow.
What I really like that question. We're going to go ahead and take that because that'll be a great way to end this section.
Well, then I'll let you all answer that question. And ladies, thank you so much. It was an honor. Audience, thank you for this time. Thank you for the engaging questions. That means y'all were really interested in the only thing that I get more excited about than this is either Dallas Cowboys or the Texans playing football. So, this was a lot of fun. Thank you.
So extra special.
Okay, thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Mark. So these contracts are fairly competitive, and how do you stand out? Well, one of the best ways to stand out is to have past performance. And Mark specifically talked about, having 2 years of federal past performance if you're going to be a prime. Well, just like everything, how do you get that past performance? How do I go find that? And so I want to jump to a couple of other slides in our presentation to talk about where do you go and how do you get that experience.
Okay, hold on. Miguel has something
Oh,
to say.
Miguel's got something. I am so sorry, Miguel. Let's turn it over to you. That's why there's many of us and not just me. Go ahead, Miguel.
Emily may have to. No.
There I am.
There you are.
Yes. Good afternoon, everybody. Miguel Ruiz, I work for Mark. I oversee the government contracting area. So there was a couple of questions on there. I just wanted to maybe give a little more elaboration there. One is the question from Deborah Hartsfeld about that the ad required, and Susan, you did a fantastic job answering that. The biggest question comes about is that, was it full and open? If it's full and open, a small business, if they win that, they can subcontract the whole thing to somebody else. It didn't make a difference what the size is. However, if it was awarded under one of these set asides, now you got to play into the portion that you can't subcontract more than 50% of this to something that's not similarly situated. So if you're a WSB and with the WSB set aside, you could subcontract out to another WSB and there's no problem. However, but if not, then you've got to do at least 50% of the work there. So that's something that on that question there. And thank you again, Susan, for you had that. There was that one provision that if it is a open competition that you are awarded through, there's no set aside involved, then you can 100% subcontract out to whoever you want at that point. The second question is from Jody Beaton, regulations governing payments to subcontractors from Prime. So I'm going to put in the chat the response there is that yes, there are regulations. Let's start with FAR 32112-1 that essentially allows a subcontractor to make a assertion of non-payment directly to the contracting officer. So again, if you're a prime and you have small business subcontractors or any subcontractor, be aware if you don't timely pay those subcontractors, they can go report you to the contracting officer. And that may jeopardize, you may either, if you haven't met your payment obligations to your subs, it can reduce, it can suspend payments to you from the prime. And of course, it could go towards a negative performance history for you as a prime because, and this could possibly endanger your future prospects, future award prospects. And then there's others regarding payments to subcontractor primes under 552-242-5. And then there's a U.S. code that's actually, all these derive from the Code of Federal Regulations, all right? So a thing to remember is that when law is passed by Congress, signed by the president, becomes law. Public law is codified into the Code of Federal Regulations called the CFR. And then the CFR is further boiled down to procurement in the FAR, the Federal Acquisition Regulations. And there is a lag time sometimes between the law passing and the FAR being updated. So those are the two comments I wanted to make on there. And then other than that, what a fantastic job y'all do. I mean, y'all have do a tremendous job supporting not only our small business community, but especially our women-owned small businesses. And I'll give it back to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Miguel. And I think we have another hand raised. Sharina Davis, do you have a question? I wanted to make sure that we capture everybody. Let's see. Emily, can you unmute her?
Sharina, you should be able to talk now, but you will need to unmute yourself. That might have been a mistake. Sharina, we'll go ahead and move on, but if you do have a question, you can drop it into the Q&A section and we will try to come back to it.
Awesome. All right, we're going to go ahead and wrap up into our final section of our time together. And this section touches on, which is great, a few of the questions that were asked and kind of wraps it all up. And so Mark and Miguel are with the SBA, right? So that's a Small Business Administration, and that's federal, right? But federal dollars flow all the way down into each and every one of our neighborhoods, our communities, and then of course the state of Texas. So once you have your WOSB, which is your women-owned small business, or your EDWOSB certification, you can use this in a couple different ways. And it can also help you get work with other agencies. Now, I want to stress a disclaimer here now that these school districts, cities, police departments, state agencies, transportation systems typically don't accept your WOSB or your EDWOSB. But since you've gotten this certification, 50% of that is the same that you're going to need to get other certifications that these agencies do accept, right? And so it goes back to identifying what agencies you want to do business with and what certifications that they accept. Now, once you've got your WOSB, yes, you can qualify for set-asides, you can qualify for subcontracting opportunities, but it also opens up additional doors and additional opportunities for you to diversify your business, to insulate it from market volatility, as well as leverage your experience that you're not only doing in the private sector, but with the local sector, as well as the state sector. Alrighty, and if you need help communicating how to leverage that experience, whether it's local, state, or federal, we're here to help. Miguel's here to help, and Mark's here to help. And so examples of businesses in the Houston area that these federal dollars might come down to. So they might need your EDW OSB certification, or they accept other certifications that you've had to collect that information for to get your EDW OSB or your WOSB certification on the federal level, right? So now we're leveraging and we're diversifying as well. And it's helping you build your past performance. So maybe you're new to working with any government agency. Well, we always recommend starting on the local level, starting as a subcontractor. Then you can navigate these waters, right? You're also mitigating your risk as a business owner, as well as you're mitigating the risk for that agency. And you've got to be able to translate your information that you've either done for the commercial sector, the industrial sector, or even the private sector to government. So we've got a whole mix of different Houston agencies here, from education, HISD, Fort Bend ISD, Cypress Fairbanks, to Metro, to higher education, MD Anderson, University of Houston, City of Houston, and even the Harris County Toll Road Authority, right? And I want to touch specifically on transportation, because that goes back to the infrastructure bill that we talked about last week. And if you weren't on our call last week, that's available on our YouTube channel. Emily's going to drop that in the chat. But I do want to pause and spend a little bit of time here on transportation, and those federal dollars come all the way down into what impacts us. And somebody says, well, I don't do transportation, Julie. I don't do concrete, or I don't provide repairs or anything for the metro buses or trains. Well, guess what? They have buildings, right? They're offices, they're businesses that operate. They need help with renovations. They need office supplies. They need help maximizing their leadership development. So just because you don't think of the common traditional things that you might think of with transportation, there are other things. TxDOT, for example, we have a client who is a structural engineer, and for a 3-year contract, they drove all the way from East Texas here to Houston to help with the renovations of the TxDOT building, which is on 290. It used to be the old Jones Carpet building. So it goes back to that research that Mark was talking about, and identifying either the types of services that you want to provide based on your NAICS code, or the type of agency that you want to work with. So Dallas, Fort Worth, right? Maybe you have your eyes set on expanding to the Dallas, Fort Worth area, or maybe there's a prime that you do work with here in Houston that also does work in the Dallas, Fort Worth area, right? You just drive up 45. And maybe someday that rail, the Texas Central Rail will be finished, or you can jump on, a flight. Either way, tons of opportunities in the Dallas Fort Worth area. Emily's dropping all of these in the chat, and she did a great job of getting a variety of different types of agencies. You've got, the Dallas DART, which is their metro there, a mix of school districts, a mix of cities. And what I really like about this list of cities is you've got some large cities, and you've also got some smaller cities. So, think about that as well as you're crafting your business's growth strategy. How do I want to get into this space? How am I going to follow these federal dollars locally? And what is the best fit for the types of businesses and services that I provide, right? Everybody wants to do work with the big school districts. Well, guess what? There are equal and probably more opportunities for the smaller school districts as well. So think about that, and think about what your unique competitive advantages. Somebody asked that question. When you're a small business, you're able to be agile, you're able to be nimble, You're able to help, solve possibly some of these supply chain challenges that are going on. Well, those are your competitive advantages, that you can be responsive and that, you're able to adjust more quickly than possibly some of these larger companies are. City of San Antonio, right? Instead of going north on 45, we're going to go east on I-10, right? So you've got the Joint Air Base in San Antonio, the City of San Antonio, Bexar County. So Bexar County is just like Harris County. Did I go the wrong way? Susan just,
west.
yeah, go west. So that's depending on which exit I take, go west to San Antonio, right? If you want to keep going west, you'll end up in El Paso. I was talking about East Texas. So anyway, and then just like, Houston has their airport system. San Antonio has their international airport system. So think about where your growth strategy is with your company. Austin, take 290. You've got, Capital Metro, so it's their transportation. Leander School District, then you've got the Austin School District. So all of these different government agencies take different types of certifications. And if you have your federal WOSB or your federal EDWOSB, then you're 50% there of getting your City of Austin certification and those types of things. So if you have some questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat or in the Q&A. Sorry, in the Q&A. That's our new process. Corpus, right? So if you grew up in South Texas and want to do work down there, there's a whole variety of different government agencies that have federal dollars tied to them all the way down in South Texas in the Corpus area. All right, I did touch on TxDOT, so I wanted to circle back on that. So TxDOT is a little different than other certifications. So TxDOT can use either federal dollars or state dollars or even local dollars. Now with TxDOT, you need to get these specific certifications. And there's two certifications that you need to get with TxDOT. Your firm must be pre-certified. Now, this is way before you even get a TxDOT contract. And you must be pre-certified whether you are interested in being a prime or a sub. So if TxDOT is on one of your top 5 lists, and we always recommend narrowing it down to 5 agencies so you can be strategic and you're able to measure your results versus being fractured and not being able to really track your results and see what is really working and benefiting you. So TxDOT, you have to have your firm pre-certified. Then the individuals that are going to be doing the work also have to have their pre-certification. And this is based on the types of skills and services that they're going to do. So back to our Johnson & Pace, which is our client in East Texas. So Johnson & Pace has their TxDOT pre-certification. Then each one of their engineers, their surveyors, their structural engineers, their civil engineers, their surveyors, and their architects, every single one of the staff that is going to be on a TxDOT project has to get their pre-certifications based on the TxDOT codes for the type of work that they're going to use.
And they've been updated.
And they need to be updated as well. Now, if you're interested in doing work with TxDOT, reach out to us and send an email to hello@B2G Victory, and we can help you navigate those waters. But just like anything in government contracting, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And so we need to start that process early. So when opportunities do come your way, then you're already there. Because if someone calls you and says, hey, I'd like for you to be a sub on a TxDOT project, and that proposal is due in 30 days, you do not have the time or the traction to get your pre-certifications done. So once again, if it's on your list, if that is a Q2, Q3, or Q4 goal, or maybe, you know what, it might be a 2023 goal, let's go ahead and start your TxDOT pre-certifications now, because there are federal dollars from the infrastructure bill tied to TxDOT. All right, the Texas Water Development Board, they're ensuring water future for Texas and its citizens. This is also a big initiative with the infrastructure bill. So if you're interested and you do stuff with water, and want to do work with the infrastructure bill, do your research with the Texas Water Development Board, and you can help with that. The Division of Emergency Management, we're all familiar with disasters and all of that. And so this is the Texas Division of Emergency Management that you'd want to reach out with and find out. Obviously, it's Texas, so they would take the hub certification, and then you want to go and do your research for that. And the Texas Division of Emergency Management is a part of the Texas A&M University system as well. All righty. So what is that tool that you're going to need as a subcontractor? The first and foremost tool that you're going to need when you go and talk to these primes, right? And this is going to help you be your main tool and your central repository of information when you're looking for set-asides on SAM, when you are looking for opportunities, and how you are going to talk to buyers on all of that. And so here's some examples, right? We really like to share real life examples of what we've done for other small businesses. One, so you can see how we've applied all of our expertise and years of experience. And maybe one of these businesses is similar to yours, or maybe this might be the opportunity for you to work with other small businesses. So this is Lisa with Strack Homes, and they have had a whole lot of success in traditional residential homes and are now making the transition into government to help with some of this FEMA money, to help with the rebuild and the renovations in homes. So this is just a great example of a business pivoting and diversifying into government contracting based on their experience in the private sector. So on Lisa's capability statement, I want to point out a few things. Her contact information. It is so critical when you have a capability statement to have your contact information on there. We see so many capability statements that just have people's websites. Now, when you send your capability statement to Miguel and to Mark and even to Tim with the SBA, if they don't have your contact information, then they can't help you even navigate more waters in the federal contracting space. Your tax ID number, your DUNS number, which is transitioning, but historically we would need your DUNS number. And then just like we were talking about today, your certifications. What certifications do you currently have? And it is so important that it is the current certifications, not certifications that you've applied for or certifications that you want that are on your to-do list. These are active certifications, so that if I wanted to do business with Lisa right now, I know that I could put Lisa on a Texas Division of Emergency Management contract because she has her hub. I also know that I could subcontract some work with the federal set aside to Lisa, because right there on her certification, she has her WOSB as well as her EDWOSB certifications. And that right there are two immediate examples of the power of your capability statement and the power of having your certifications on there and being accessible. Your services and capabilities, your NIGP codes and your NAICS codes, as well as your industry serves. So Dwight Wilson with Wilson Unlimited. I know that Dwight does engineering, consulting, and project management, and he's also open to subcontracting opportunities. So back to TxDOT. If Dwight had his TxDOT certs, which he doesn't, but I know that I could have him on engineering or project management, right? But Dwight doesn't have his TxDOT certification, and it is not listed on his capability statement. But Mark mentioned your NIGP codes. You've got to know what your NIGP codes are. And most importantly, you need to know what those numbers stand for. We always encourage everyone to put your NIGP codes in the order of intent. And what I mean by the order of intent is, what are the services or capabilities right now that are the most profitable to you? What are the services and capabilities right now that you want to promote? What are the services and capabilities that you want to take the most opportunity from, right? And you need to think about that and order your NAICS codes as well as your NIGP codes in those order. right? People don't read, everybody just skims. And so if I'm just looking at Wilson Unlimited and I'm just glancing at those first codes, then I need to make sure that those are the most important. So don't put them in alpha order or don't put them in numeric order. And most importantly, know what those numbers are. So when you are talking to a buyer, maybe it's an informal opportunity, or you are talking to that large prime who you met at an event and sent your capability statement to, when he asks you, what your codes are, you better be able to know what those numbers are and what they stand for. Also, you want to use your capability statement for as many opportunities as possible. For example, Port Houston, who will be getting some of the infrastructure dollars, they use NIGP codes. And so you don't want to have a capability statement for one space and another. Try when you're first starting out to have just one capability statement with as much information on it as possible. That's another reason why we're showing you these examples, because it needs to be professional. And you've got to be able to chunk this information in a way that it's digestible, it's readable, and understandable. All righty. So then back to Dwight Industries. So we've also ordered Dwight's Industries in the industries of which are priorities to him to grow his business. So we thought, he sat down and said, look, I want to, it is very strategic growth in these sectors of how I want to grow my business. And so education is the main category that he wants to grow in. And so that's K through 12 and higher ed, and then other industries as well. All righty, your operations, we're using our good friend with One Day Came and David's capability statements to show that, because David has 4 locations. He's in Tampa, Houston, Tallahassee, and Gainesville. So if you have multiple locations, you want to make sure to communicate that. And so he's got all of his additional offices listed there. You can see we snuck in some small photos of some of his projects. We've got his by the numbers. So he's been in business for 23 years. Excuse me, he has 23 years of industry experience. He's had his business for 17 and he has 10 employees. So that is showing breadth and depth, as well as, you can see here, he's got his certifications there as well, and all of his codes. Alrighty, so why you? You've got to be able to articulate your value proposition. You've got to be able to have references as well as your insurance information. And when you articulate your value proposition, that's not just straight reading it. It's being able to be passionate about it and being able to communicate it when you're on the phone going over your capability statement. Not all of us are natural born salespeople, right? And so if you're not one of those natural born salespeople, which many of us are not, you can use your capability statement as your kind of your guide or your tool. And it can help hold your hand through these kind of conversations. But you need to make sure that you know this information and that you're not just straight reading it. Now, ways to mitigate risk, right? And so if you're new to this space, new to federal contracting, you want to be able to communicate why they should choose you, and 2 ways to mitigate their risk of choosing someone new or choosing someone who hasn't been in this space yet is references and insurance, right? So people who you've done great work for and people who can say some good things about you. And then obviously insurance is one of the most common ways to mitigate risk. All right, your experience. Now you can communicate your experience through a bunch of different ways. That also helps mitigate their risk. And it also is past performance, which says, I can do this work for you. You need to make sure to communicate that on your capability statement. And in summary, when you're going through this, remember, you're not everything to everyone. Think about your top 3 or 4 services. Think about where the opportunities of growth for your company are. And if you're not sure about that, then reach out to us, Mark, Miguel, or Tim, and think about where those opportunities are in those spaces that you want to do. All righty, so kind of in summary, we wanted to show a few other capability statements. So this was Honesty Construction's before capability statement and his after. And one way to set your company apart, how do you stand out, is safety. If safety is something that you're proud of and your EMR rating is at industry standards or even below, then let's go ahead and put that on there, right? As well as your lost time incidences as well. So here are all of Greg's certifications as well. And we'll end this certification, this capability section regarding certifications with one of our favorite female business owners is Chef Yo. And that's another reason why we put her in, is kind of think a little bit outside of the box, right? And back to that transportation. Chef Yo has lots of clients, and she is shifting the majority of her catering business, and diversifying it into government contracting. And so she has spent the time and made the investment to get all of these different certifications. So when an agency wants or needs help, in catering assistance, she's there. Woo! We have gone through a whole lot of information in our 90 minutes together. And, the learning doesn't stop when our session ends. And so it's really critical that you jot down today, plus all of your actions, is indeed your victory plan. And you don't become overwhelmed. And so what are achievable things that I'm going to do next week, next quarter, and the quarter after? And if anybody wants to kind of put in the chat, maybe there are one or two things that they have learned today that they can implement immediately. It is so important to us that each and every one of you take away 3 or 4 action things that you can do next week. We call those kind of your Monday morning things, Monday morning moments. So
Discount. $50 discount.
Oh, that's right,
By
Susan.
May, by the end of, they have to notify us by the end of May.
Okay, so Susan wants me to make sure that if you would like help with your capability statement, we are offering a $50 discount by the end of May. And so Emily will put that also in the email, the follow-up email from our time together. All right. Research your code. So these are final takeaway items that maybe you might want to put in your action plan. Research your codes, determine which certifications you're eligible for, apply for relevant certifications. You could spend so many hours applying for all of these certifications. So be very strategic and intentional on the growth trajectory of your company, where the opportunities are, and what agencies you want to do work with. Follow up with us. And I know we've said that quite a few times, but we really are, if you can't already tell, very passionate about what we do and helping growing small business capacity, helping you build your business through government contracting. And then we want to let you know about up and coming seminars, right? Keep learning and keep growing. We're doing a session on April 26th with 2 amazing authors, Dr. Shannon Deere and Cheryl Miller, about businesses doing good, engaging women and elevating communities. So there's the link to register about that. And if you show up in person, the first 10 people that show up will actually get an autographed copy of the book. And then on April 27th, Jeanette and our friends at Fort Bend are doing a session about building relationships. And that is available virtual, in person as well, just like the business doing good session. Our contact information, Emily is going to drop it in the chat. We really want you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have posted lots of videos from all sorts of seminars that we've been doing over the last 2 years, as well as on our website. There is a listing of a repository of each seminar that we've done, as well as the information, the handouts from those seminars. So if you weren't able to attend a seminar back in January, well, you can go to YouTube and you can find it, or you can go also on our website and download all of the tools, the links, and any of the other supporting material that we had from those webinars. You subscribe to our YouTube channel as we post new videos and continue to edit our videos down smaller. We'll be posting those as well. For example, we just edited down a session that we did last year with Port Houston with their opportunity to you that just specifically talks about your elevator pitch. So we're in the process of editing down our videos into small digestible chunks. So if you just want help, for example, on your capability statement, you can find that video. And most importantly, we want to thank Mark, Miguel, and the entire team at the SBA for joining us today and talking about how to maximize your women-owned certifications on the federal level, not only as a prime as well as a sub, but taking that all the way down into our specific neighborhoods. And we've got some time for some additional questions and answers.
Julie, I just want to hop in a few things that have been coming through the chat and the Q&A box here in the last few minutes. We've shared a lot of links today, especially in the last few minutes when we went through the different cities and locations. All of those will be emailed to you. It'll be a few days, but all of the links that were shared today will be combined into one document. You'll receive an email because you've registered for this event. You'll receive an email with all of those links, as well as the $50 off coupon for your capability statement and a link to today's recording. So if you were late, if you weren't able to grab something out of the chat, all of that will be coming to you. Give us a couple days to get everything organized and the video up on YouTube, and then that will be headed to your inbox.
Thank you so much, Emily. And Miguel and Mark, thank you both for putting your contact information in the chat. Emily will have all of our contact information, Mark's and Miguel's and ours, and all of the material that's going to be posted as well. All righty, we've got 3 minutes left for free advice. So please take advantage of this opportunity.
Several people want to know if we could send them samples of capability statements, and since those are clients.
Okay. Susan says in the question and answer in chats, we've had some requests for people to send y'all examples of their capability statements. So since they are clients of ours, we have their permission to share them through our training, but we don't have permission to send them directly to you. There are a couple seminars, like we said, on our YouTube channel that have them. We are going to be chunking a session recording just on capability statements, so you can see them as well. If you're interested, we've got that coupon, and we can customize one specifically for you and help you navigate that process and that journey. If there is one specifically today that you really liked out of the 2, 4, 6, 8 examples that I showed, I don't mind putting them back up on the screen. So just let me know. I saw, yep, this is being recorded. We'll pull it down and then post it. So give me a couple days to do that. Tiffany has a question. We currently received our WBENC certification when we need to get additional certifications. Well, Tiffany, yes and no. So with your WBENC certification, you are more than 50% there of getting your EDWOSB and your WOSB certification. A lot of that information is the same. A lot of corporates accept your WBENC certification, and some local government agencies accept it as well. We know a few school districts that accept it. If you want to do work at the federal level, whether that's being a prime contractor or a sub, you will need to get your WOSB or your EDWOSB certification. Mark or Miguel, do either of you want to elaborate any more on that, or did I capture all of the salient points?
This is Mark Winchester. You did cover the salient points. We bank, you know, that's the WBE Women's Business Enterprise, and you're absolutely right. The WBE is for corporate contracting, and you're also right. There can be reciprocity depending on the entity and the certification. And you're also right, a lot of the requirements for WBE also fall into the category of WOSB as well.
All right, we have time for one final question. Who wants to take us all the way around?
Oh, somebody has asked us to do our B2G pitch.
Oh, to do our B2G.
Yeah.
Wow. And if you order by 2 o'clock today, you'll get a set of free steak knives. No, just joking.
She missed the introduction, so she just wants a little overview about who we are and what we do. So.
Perfect. Thank you so much for asking. So B2G Victory was formed in January of 2022. Co-founders are Susan Repka and myself. Emily has been with us since the beginning. And what we specialize in is helping businesses secure government contracts, whether that's helping you get your certifications, helping you with your capability statement, finding opportunities, as well as responding opportunities, anything and everything that we can do to help businesses be successful in this space. Then in turn, we help the businesses match up with prime contractors to help them achieve their goals, right? Because every prime contract over $50,000 on the state level and at various levels at state and local, federal and local, they need small businesses. So we help you navigate those waters. Then just like today, we partner with government agencies to help educate small businesses and women-owned businesses, veteran-owned businesses, and minority-owned businesses, help them understand how to navigate that process through education and partnerships with government agencies such as the SBA. I think I covered it. And Mark or Miguel, any additional closing thoughts from either of you as we conclude our time?
No, just wanted to share. It was an honor. Thank you so much for the invitation. I actually have another event that I need to go to. This was a lot of fun. Thank you for thinking of SBA. Thank you for inviting me to present, and look forward to the next opportunity. As we'd say in Spanish, ya me voy. See y'all later.
Absolutely.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Winchester. Let's hear it for him, folks.
Yes, absolutely.
Mark will be joining with us daily. No, I just am so grateful that for both Susan, Julie, and of course Mark for their insight into the world of contracting opportunities. It makes it a lot easier for someone like myself to try to weigh in on anything, because you've covered all the bases to start with, and then now we'll get to nuances. So thank you very much for your insight. Thank you for our opportunity to speak, especially featuring Mark. And I look forward to your next seminar.
Thanks so much. We'll keep everybody posted. Enjoy the rest of your day. Take care and take care of each other.